Okay, so we're going to talk about something that is near and dear to all of the ADHD hearts, and that is overwhelm. So overwhelm, rage quit, whatever it is that you want to call it. It is that moment in which you go, I have so much that I have to do, or I have to do this thing again, or there is a big project that I have to do, and you literally just sit on the couch and don't do it. And that causes anxiety and stress, or you get really, really super irritable. It can do all sorts of things. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to do this through the metaphor of pancakes. And if you did not get a chance to watch the video at the beginning of this, please, please, please go back because I'm going to use that metaphor as we're talking about this stuff. So let me share my screen really quickly so that we can work on this together. Okay, so in that little video that I hope you watched, where we've got the Wreck-It Ralph and it's the cute little bunny, and the bunny is like continuously eating these pancakes over and over again, that's what it can feel like that to us, right? So, like, why does this happen? So the first thing that I want you to do is to doodle yourself underneath a giant stack of pancakes. And if you're like, why a giant stack of pancakes? There's a few different reasons for it. But one of the things that I always try to teach you guys is that you need to start viewing your brain almost like an outsider, even when it doesn't feel like an outsider. So this is an example of doing that activity. So here's my giant stack of pancakes. I'm going to make this. Oops. I'm going to make this yellow, right? I'm going to make sure that all of these are closed. Otherwise, my entire thing's going to fill. And if you're like, why is she spending, see, that's what happens. That's what happens. Why is she spending so much time like coloring these things in? Doing these little activities, whether you decide to do the doodles or not, but doing these little activities when you're learning about your brain, especially stuff like this, where it's like it's kind of a hard thing to talk about because there's a lot of shame that's associated with this. ADHD paralysis is a real thing, rage quit is a real thing, but it doesn't always feel very good to talk about it. It can make us feel kind of ashamed. But when you do activities like this, where you're basically going through and you are creating these silly little drawings, it gives you enough dopamine. And it also, and this is the important part, or one of the important parts anyway, it also separates you just enough. I almost made a gray pancake. Let's not make a gray pancake. Let's do another one of these. It separates you enough so that you can look at this in a different way. It makes you happy. It's being very silly, and it also like allows you to do exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is what it can feel like, right? It can feel like we are just like underneath this giant stack, whether that is like my entire college course feels like it's too much and I can't do anything, right? My coursework has piled up on me because I procrastinated and now I don't know where to start. And I don't want to start because I'm ashamed for procrastinating and all of these other things. Or, I've got such a big project that like I can't even start my essay because I don't know where to begin. This is what it feels like. All right. And then, unfortunately, because this is how life works, it feels like there's just like more and more that's being piled on. All right. So here's my syrup that's being piled on. And it's just like, it's never, oh, don't do that. It's just like never ending. Right. And it can almost feel suffocating. So, like, suffocating, although suffocating, fair enough. Like, it is kind of suffering. Right. But anyway, so like, this is what it can feel like. It can feel like we're just being like overwhelmed. It can feel like sensory overload. We can also get like more irritable, and it all has to do with the dopamine in our systems, right? We have a lower level of dopamine just at the baseline, and when we are tasked with doing things that are our non-preferred activities, we aren't going to feel overwhelmed if we have like a new video game that we're trying to play, right? We're not going to feel overwhelmed if like this is us drawing or doing something that we really enjoy doing. We're going to feel overwhelmed if we are having to do a bunch of maybe academic tasks or chores or whatever it is, right? But the first step is to recognize that this is the feeling. If you can get it before you rage quit, if you can get it before you start to do your perfection paralysis or your ADHD paralysis, great. If you can't, that's okay too. Sometimes it's when we're under the stack of pancakes that we have to crawl out from underneath them and figure out, okay, I recognize this feeling. I know what this is. Now, what I'm going to do with it. Okay. So let's talk about some solutions. So the first thing that you want to do is exactly what I said. You're going to take yourself from underneath that stack and you're going to sit there and you're going to go, okay, what is in this actual stack of pancakes. And for this one, I'm not going to color because we're going to go through this kind of quickly. All right. So what is in this actual stack of pancakes? What are the tasks that I need to do? All right. This is actually going to help with your anxiety for those of you that are like me that are ADHD type 7 high anxiety. For those of you that are just like, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't even talk. Like, I don't know what to do. Literally get a giant piece of paper. I use poster board when I'm really, really anxious. And I get poster board and I get different colors of Sharpies and I just go ham. Well, not ham. I go pancake. I go bacon pancakes. I don't know. So I go ham on it and I just do all of the thoughts, all of the feelings. Like I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I just allow my brain to kind of brain dump on it. Right. So recognize that this is your brain doing that. All right. And then once you've done that, once you've brain dumped, so here's me looking at it and I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Right. I recognize you. All right. Once you've done that, here's me carving it up. Figure out the smallest task that you can begin with. What is the first most accomplishable task that you can do? Hopefully you have enough tasks on there that you can, take a couple of them just so that you can get the serotonin. Now, serotonin is different than dopamine. Serotonin is success. It's the feeling of getting the thing done. It feels successful. And that's a little bit harder for people to get. Oftentimes, ADHD folks will substitute dopamine in there for serotonin. There is nothing wrong with that. Just know that it is a different, no, not black butter. It is a different type of neurochemical. And it's not bad, but it's going to be one of those things where it's like it's fleeting. And dopamine also doesn't last as long. And so you're going to want more. Okay. So just be aware of that. But if we're talking about the idea of you accomplishing a task, you're going to get a little bit of dopamine and a little bit of serotonin by picking the smallest one, all right, and going that one, all right, circle one. And if you can circle more than one, fine, two, but keep it simple, right? So keep it easy, keep it simple, find a couple, and you're just going to carve these up. So I'm going to make a little carve here. I'm going to grab my eraser and I'm going to carve out that little piece. I'm going to be like, all right, so there's like my little piece. And if you're like, oh, look at that. I know it's weird. It's almost like I'm the daughter of an art teacher. What? Stop. All right. And here's my little piece of, okay, maybe that's not very good. Sorry, Dad. That's my little piece of pancake, right? All right. So I've got my little piece. I can eat that. If I don't want to eat this giant stack of pancakes, then that's okay. I can at least eat that, right? Okay. So the next thing that you're going to do is you are going to sit down and you are going to eat that piece of pancake for your tolerance time. Now, your tolerance time is going to vary from person to person. For me, it's usually about 20 minutes, but that's because I've kind of worked myself up to it. So what I would do is I would probably try and figure out what your tolerance time is for yourself right now. Now, I'd say 20 minutes, and that's not every time, right? Emotional dysregulation is real, and it definitely affects our ability to executively function, right? And if you're already at a low spoons day, oh my gosh, there's so many different food metaphors in here. If you're already at a day in which you don't have a lot of energy, is what we call a low spoons day. If you're already at a low spoons day, then maybe your time of tolerance or your tolerance time is going to be lower. You might be 5 minutes. Fine. Start with 5 minutes. If you can do it for 5 minutes, you can probably continue to do it, but it's really important that you set a timer. And once the timer goes off, even if you can keep going, just stop for a minute and acknowledge the fact that you did it. You ate that piece of pancake, right? For 5 minutes. Awesome. If you feel like keep going, great. And if you don't, take a moment, go to your recovery. We'll talk about recovery in a second. Go to your recovery and then come back again. Okay. So that's the third step. And then finally, do things with this particular, like when you're eating it, like, or doing the task is what I should say. See if there's a way that you can make it a little bit more tolerable for yourself. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. This is me. And like now, instead of this being covered in syrup, I'm going to put like some fruit on there. Maybe I'll put some like strawberries on there. All right. So you're going to try doing one or two of these things for, let's say your tolerance time is 10 minutes. Do them for 10 minutes and then stop. All right. Do them for 10 minutes and then stop. You're looking at the essay and you're like, I don't even know like what to do. Like, I don't even know how to start. I don't even know where to go with this. All right. This is where this step 4, where you're looking at this and you're eating it, but you're trying with like maybe a different flavor of syrup, which I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So here's my new, let's say it's strawberry syrup. That sounds actually kind of good. Now my stomach is growling. Make my husband take me out for pancakes for dinner. He would look at me like I'm crazy. Okay. So let's talk about that fourth step, and we're going to actually break this down a little bit. But before we get into the fourth step and breaking it down, we need to talk about the cycle. Okay. So there is a cycle in ADHD brains, and this happens to you, but there's a lot of shame associated with it. But I want to let you know that it is so, so common. So, so common. So it is the overwhelm, avoidance, piles up cycle. So you feel overwhelmed about insert task here, a routine task. Maybe it's just doing your just dishes. Maybe it's a bunch of different tasks. Like you've got a bunch of different subjects in school and you're just like, I don't even know where to start. I just feel completely overwhelmed and I'm like discombobulated all over the place. Maybe it's going to be something more like a giant task. Maybe you've got a big project or an essay that you're trying to do and you don't know where to start. So what do? You avoid it. Right? You go do something else. Like I will tell you that when I taught in public school and I had stacks of papers, my office was never cleaner. My house was never cleaner because I would go and do everything but that thing. I would not sit down and grade papers until I was literally forced to do it, which was usually at a debate tournament, right? So I'd like trap myself in a debate tournament to force myself to grade papers. It worked, but it was also kind of awful, right? Not the debate tournament, just like forcing myself to sit in a room and do it, right? So instead, we want to try to avoid this by giving ourselves a little bit of variety, right? If we continue the cycle of the overwhelm, avoidance, and then piles up, that actually creates a neural pathway in our brain, and we will start to associate with that task, whether it's doing dishes or it's a particular subject or maybe all of the subjects, and it will create this avoidance neural pathway. And for those of you that have school avoidance, meaning that like I don't even want to go to school because I just can't get into it, like I just can't feel it. That might be what has happened, and you've started this overwhelm avoidance piles up cycle, right? Because just because you avoid it doesn't mean that it goes away. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to do with that, specifically referring back to step 4 here. Okay. So part of this is challenging your negative thought pattern. All right. There's probably a reason that you feel overwhelmed, and there's probably a reason that you are avoiding, whether it's procrastination, paralysis, or rage quit. You're probably feeling some certain ways about it. And so we have to challenge that. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to try it in a different way. So have you tried doing the thing competitively? Okay. Like, for example, have you tried eating your pancakes in a pancake eating contest? Or if you're doing something that's a routine task, have you tried like competing with your siblings? Like, how quickly can you guys, put the dishes away? Who's the first one who can get the trash up the hill, right? Or if you're sitting down trying to do something academic, sitting down and having like a body double in front of you, like you can have that. Like, can you make it social? Okay. Can you do it in a different place? All right. If you work better because other people around you are working quietly, go to the library, go to Starbucks. Like sometimes we just need to change a venue. If on the other hand, you work better alone, if you're in a classroom where everyone is doing group work and your group is constantly distracting you, I have met very few teachers who will say no. If you say to them, listen, I'm having a really hard time concentrating in my group. Is it okay if I just take my part and work independently in the back of the room, out in the hall, next to your desk, wherever it is, away from the group, right? Noise canceling headphones are a thing and they are a wonderful thing. Have you tried using binaural beats? Binaural beats are like you have headphones in and they bounce back and forth. That is huge. Have you tried eating your pancakes listening to different types of noise, white noise, lavender noise, brown noise, right? Have you tried doing it badly? Have you tried eating your pancakes badly? Like what are you talking about? Like throwing syrup all over the wall? Yeah, basically, if you're trying to sit down and write an essay and you can't get yourself to get started, write the worst thesis statement ever. Write the worst introductory sentence ever. Allow yourself to do it badly, because a lot of time, especially for people like me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. People like me, we get stuck in this perfection paralysis where we feel like we need 7 hours to get it perfectly right, right? And that's not possible most of the time. And so we have to allow ourselves to do things badly. And sometimes that's just enough to sit down and separate those negative thoughts from the reality. We have to look at the stack of pancakes and go, that is my thinking. I am not that. You are not your thoughts. Look at the stack of pancakes and recognize, hey, you know what? I've been doing this the same way since I was very young. What if I tried it differently? What if I changed the neural pathway just enough to be able to do the thing differently? Okay. So there's a bunch of different suggestions that you can do here. I will tell you that when it comes to concentration, one of the best things that I ever have found has been brown noise. That works really, really well for me. I think it's 70 hertz, but that has been a game changer for me. And I strongly, strongly suggest you give that a try. And then also, again, giving yourself some different ways of doing it so that you can challenge that negative thought cycle, right? All right, so here's the very last one, and that is recovery. This is when you are trying to pull yourself off that hurdle field, when you're like, listen, I did it for 10 minutes and I got it done, but now I'm like, I'm spent. I'm burnt out. I'm feeling all over, right? I'm feeling panicky. I'm feeling teary. I'm irritable, whatever it is. This is when you need to take a few minutes of recovery. And we want to do active recovery, just like in weight training, right? Want to do active recovery, which means that you're not giving yourself a dopamine hole. Okay. I know it's really tempting when we're giving ourselves a brain break to immediately get onto our phone and start scrolling. Playing games is fine, but you need to make sure that it's not going to be one of those games that's going to suck you in. Like I have this game that my husband makes fun of me for called Bears, and it's completely mindless. And it's literally just putting different, little animals into different little categories and like sliding the categories. I can play that game and I can stop after 20 minutes because it's just me kind of checking out. It's very Tetris-like, if you've ever heard about the Tetris theory. It's very Tetris-like. On the other hand, if I play a different video game, if I play Skyrim, if I play, Ghost of Tsushima, if I play The Sims 4, don't judge me. If I play those games, I can't stop playing those games. So you have to be very, very selective when it comes to your recovery. So I suggest something a little bit different. Try reading, try talking to a friend. I'm a big proponent of nature as an active recovery activity. Moving your body around is probably one of the best things, especially if you're like me and you have a lot of anxiety. If I start to feel really overwhelmed in the middle of a project, like creating this class, going for a run has been probably one of the best things. So active recovery is essential. All right. So the very last thing is doodle 5 of your favorite recovery activities. I'm going to say for me, number 1 is probably nature. This is a tree. It's supposed to look like a tree. It is a tree. I'm gonna make it green so that it actually looks like a tree. Sorry, Dad. Tree. And then I'm gonna do snacks. Sorry, I'm gonna do naps. That's actually a really good one. I have discovered lately the power of naps. My husband has known about them for a while, but did you know that you can literally take like a 20-minute nap and like you'll feel super refreshed? I didn't know that. That's like a thing that actually occurs. No idea. Didn't know it. Okay, that's a thing now. I also really love drawing, so I'm going to do a little pencil doodle here. Obviously, I love drawing. So there's my little me. I don't know why I don't have a face. Now I have a face. And then I'm gonna do movies. No, I can't sit down and watch a movie for just like 20 minutes. Sensory toys. Yeah, definitely. I've got some of those. I have a little squish guy and I squish him and he makes me happy. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. It says 5. So I'm gonna do one more move. So I'm gonna draw myself running. Okay, actually, I'm not smiling. I'm usually like looking angry. I don't know why I look angry when I run, but I do. Okay, so if we're talking about the idea of, ADHD, overwhelm, burnout, rage quit, remember the first step is to recognize that these are your thoughts, right? That this is you feeling this way, and that's valid. There's nothing there. It is not that you're lazy, and that's the big thing that I want you to remember is that no one likes feeling like this. No one likes feeling like, I can't get anything done. I'm lazy. I'm all of these things, right? No one likes that feeling. So it's not that you are trying to be this way. And that's to me what laziness is. Laziness to me is that I know that I need to get something done, but I like the feeling of not doing this thing and I don't plan on changing that. And this is the responsibilities or the things that I'm supposed to do have absolutely no merit to me. I don't care about them, right? And I enjoy the feeling of being, non-productive, right? If you are feeling that way, if that's what we're talking about, then that's not necessarily you feeling overwhelmed. That's actually you feeling like you need to have an actual break. Like you need to take a break. You've got too much on your plate. And that's like the very last thing. I should have covered this when I had that open. But the very last thing is if you are at the point where you feel as though I can't do anything because I'm so overwhelmed that I would much rather just lay on this couch and deal with all of the repercussions of whatever me not moving is. Like that to me is more enjoyable than me actually taking the first bite of pancakes. Then that's a sign of a deeper burnout issue. And you need to ask for help. You need to ask for your accommodations. And I know that it's hard to talk to your teachers, but have a conversation with them and tell them I'm struggling and I want to do well in your class and I don't know where to begin. They will help you. There is not a teacher on this planet, friend, that hates you. I know that it can feel that way sometimes, but I promise teachers have such a hard job. They're not going into teaching trying to make your life miserable. Talk to your teacher and say, I have ADHD and I either have, accommodations or I don't, but I want to do well and I'm struggling. Tell them, be honest and vulnerable. I know it's so scary, but it's okay, and if your mom's your teacher, then tell your mom, or your dad or whoever it is. If you're homeschooling, then talk to your people, talk to your adults. You don't have to be alone in this. It can feel very isolating, but I promise you, you're going to get through it. You're going to eat the stack of pancakes, and this hopefully will help you a little bit with that. Okay.